The moment that sealed envelope from Dubai touched the desk inside Clarence House, the calm, polished world of the British monarchy cracked open just enough to reveal a scandal simmering beneath the surface. Because this was not a polite diplomatic request, not even close. It was a demand so shocking, so breathtakingly bold that seasoned royal aides reportedly stared at one another in stunned silence. Someone in Dubai believed they could claim a piece of Princess Diana's legacy and drag Meghan Markle into the center of the storm. And the woman standing between that demand and royal history? Princess Anne. The Princess Royal has long been known as the monarchy's steel backbone, quiet, disciplined, ruthlessly loyal to the institution. But what happened behind the palace walls that week was not simply routine royal business. It was a clash of power, prestige, and legacy. And at the center of it all sat one glittering symbol that the world still associates with Diana, the Spencer Tiara. According to the explosive diplomatic communication that arrived at Clarence House, representatives tied to a powerful Dubai royal figure had presented a two-part demand that left the British court reeling. The first request was already uncomfortable enough. They insisted that a lavish pair of diamond earrings, valued at nearly £500,000, should be returned immediately. The reason? Those earrings had allegedly been given to Meghan Markle years earlier during what they described as a private diplomatic outreach. But the second demand was the real lightning strike. Dubai's royal representative reportedly suggested that the British monarchy should arrange the transfer of the Spencer Tiara itself as a permanent gift to the Emirati royal household. Yes, the same Spencer Tiara that dazzled the world in 1981 when Diana walked down the aisle at St. Paul's Cathedral. The same heirloom that symbolized her Spencer family roots before she ever became the Princess of Wales. A piece of history that had lived within the Spencer bloodline for centuries, and someone believed it could simply be handed over. Inside Clarence House, aides realized immediately that this request crossed a line so serious it threatened to ignite a diplomatic firestorm between nations. The tiara wasn't just jewelry, it was the emotional heartbeat of the Spencer family legacy. Asking for it was like asking another family to hand over their ancestral crown. Princess Anne didn't hesitate. Instead of delegating the issue to advisors or letting bureaucrats bury the problem in paperwork, she personally took control of the response. Insiders say she read the message carefully, line by line, before ordering a formal reply drafted under her direct supervision. And when the response left Clarence House that evening, the tone was unmistakable. Polite, but absolutely lethal. Princess Anne's message reportedly made two things crystal clear. First, she warned the Dubai royal court that the British monarchy's treasures are not diplomatic bargaining chips. The crown's history cannot be traded, gifted, or negotiated simply because someone admires a famous royal figure. But then came the second part of her response, and this is where the drama exploded. Regarding the missing diamond earrings allegedly connected to Meghan Markle, Anne delivered a line that stunned everyone involved. The crown has no record of such a gift. With that one sentence, Princess Anne effectively cut the monarchy out of the dispute entirely. If the earrings existed, if they had been given, if they had never been returned, then the responsibility did not fall on the palace. It fell on Meghan Markle. In one calculated move, Anne had redirected the entire controversy away from the royal institution and straight toward the Duchess of Sussex herself. Behind the palace walls, insiders understood exactly what this meant. For years, the monarchy had maintained a carefully balanced silence about the Sussexes' personal dealings. Even after Harry and Meghan stepped away from official royal duties, the palace rarely spoke publicly about the couple's private financial relationships. But this situation was different, because now a foreign royal court was trying to hold the British monarchy accountable for gifts allegedly connected to Meghan, and Princess Anne was having none of it. Her response reportedly carried an icy undertone that diplomats immediately recognized. The crown would no longer act as a shield for private arrangements made outside its authority. If Meghan Markle had accepted jewelry worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, then the matter was hers to answer for. The palace would not intervene. But while the earring controversy simmered in the background, Anne turned her attention back to the real heart of the dispute, the Spencer Tiara. And here, she dismantled the Dubai request with surgical precision. The Princess Royal reminded them that the tiara had absolutely nothing to do with the crown. It was not stored in royal vaults, it was not owned by the monarchy, it had never been a state asset. The Spencer Tiara belongs to the Spencer family. For centuries, dating back to the 18th century, the piece had passed through generations of the Spencer lineage long before before Diana ever entered royal life. When Diana wore it at her wedding, she was honoring her own family heritage, not borrowing from the royal treasury. Princess Anne reportedly spelled this out with chilling clarity. The crown cannot give away what it does not own, and suggesting that the monarchy should order the Spencer family to surrender their ancestral heirloom was not simply inappropriate, it revealed a profound misunderstanding of British inheritance law. In other words, the request wasn't just rejected, it was impossible. To drive the point home, Anne reportedly commissioned a detailed dossier explaining the tiara's history. The document traced its origins back to 1767 and outlined how it became one of the most treasured symbols of Spencer family identity. Every diamond, every floral motif, every redesign over the centuries told a story of lineage and legacy. The tiara wasn't merely jewelry, it was heritage. Anne's message to the Dubai representatives carried a devastatingly simple truth. Admiration for Diana does not entitle anyone to claim the relics of her family. You can honor her memory, but you cannot own her legacy. And perhaps the most striking detail buried within that briefing, the tiara already has a future. According to palace insiders, the Spencer heirloom is expected to remain within the family for the next generation, with speculation that Princess Charlotte could one day wear it as a tribute to her grandmother. With that revelation, Anne closed the door completely. The Spencer tiara was never leaving Britain. The crown had drawn its line. But what Princess Anne had just set in motion was far bigger than a jewelry dispute, because by redirecting the earring controversy toward Meghan Markle, she had quietly unleashed a new wave of scrutiny that the palace had avoided for years. And as word of the confrontation began leaking into diplomatic circles and international media, the fallout was about to explode in ways no one inside the palace could fully control. The moment Princess Anne's letter quietly circulated through diplomatic channels, the atmosphere surrounding the entire scandal changed overnight. What had started as a bold demand from a powerful royal household suddenly began to unravel into something far more embarrassing. Because the deeper the Dubai delegation looked into the history Princess Anne had laid out, the clearer it became that they had stepped into a storm they could not win. And at the center of that storm was a woman who rarely raises her voice, but whose authority inside the monarchy is absolute. Princess Anne had not simply rejected the request for the Spencer tiara. She had dismantled it piece by piece, exposing exactly why the demand had been so wildly misguided in the first place. The dossier she commissioned spread through royal offices like wildfire, laying out centuries of Spencer family history with brutal precision. The tiara, it explained, was never part of the crown's official jewels. It had never been housed in the Tower of London. It had never belonged to the Queen's private vaults. It had always remained within the Spencer estate, passed down from one generation to another like a sacred heirloom. Its origins traced all the way back to the 1700s when the Spencer family commissioned the first elements of the piece. Over time, it evolved, growing into the breathtaking floral masterpiece that the world would later associate with Diana. The heart-shaped center, the shimmering diamonds arranged like delicate constellations, the carefully crafted gold frame, every detail carried the fingerprints of family legacy. And when Diana chose to wear it on her wedding day, that decision had been deeply personal. She could have chosen a royal tiara from the crown's collection. The palace vaults were filled with legendary pieces once worn by queens and princesses, but Diana deliberately reached for the Spencer tiara instead. It was her way of reminding the world that before she became the Princess of Wales, she was a Spencer. Princess Anne made that point painfully clear during the internal briefing that followed the diplomatic standoff. Observers say she explained the tiara's significance with the calm authority of someone who understood exactly what was at stake. This is not simply jewelry, she reportedly emphasized. It is lineage. The message was unmistakable. Requesting the Spencer tiara wasn't just a diplomatic misstep, it was an attempt to reach into another family's private history and claim it as a trophy. And in the world of British aristocracy, that was unthinkable. But beneath the calm surface, something significant had changed, because the Dubai delegation didn't leave empty-handed. Instead, they used the meeting to signal a new direction, one that quietly shifted their attention toward the working members of the royal family, and that pivot was impossible to miss. During the conversation, the Emirati representatives expressed open admiration for Catherine, Princess of Wales. They praised her dedication to charitable initiatives and her steady public service, describing her as a powerful symbol of the modern monarchy. To reinforce this diplomatic reset, they announced new philanthropic partnerships tied to causes supported by the royal family, and Catherine was named as an honorary patron. It was a subtle but unmistakable signal. The future of royal diplomacy would revolve around the working royals, not the Sussex brand. Princess Anne understood the significance instantly. By allowing the conversation to move forward in that direction, she neutralized the crisis completely. The tiara remained safely within the Spencer estate. The monarchy's reputation remained intact, and the messy dispute over Meghan's alleged gifts had been pushed firmly into the realm of private responsibility. For the crown, it was a masterclass in damage control. For Meghan Markle, however, the consequences were far less comfortable because the palace had now made its position unmistakably clear. If foreign donors believed their gifts had been accepted under the aura of royal influence, that perception was not the monarchy's problem anymore. It was hers. As the Dubai delegation departed Clarence House that afternoon, the storm that had threatened to erupt across international headlines quietly dissolved. The Spencer tiara remained exactly where it had always belonged, within the Spencer family's historic estate at Althorpe. But the real story wasn't about diamonds. It was about power. Princess Anne had reminded the world that the monarchy survives not through noise or spectacle, but through something far stronger, immovable boundaries. When the crown decides to stand still, the rest of the world is forced to move around it. And in this extraordinary episode, Anne had done more than defend a tiara. She had defended the very idea that history itself is not for sale.